Stressed, overworked, burnt out. Today's guest is Lillian Lartey, and we're going to be talking about how to spot the signs of feeling stressed, overworked, and burnt out, identifying the root causes of stress and burnout, and the 5 things that you can do to eliminate feeling stressed, overworked, and burnt out. Welcome to the Dawn Jarvis Show. Hello, my guest today is Lillian Lartey. How are you, Lillian?
I'm very well, thank you, Dawn. How are you?
I'm really good. It's really good to see you. I'm looking forward to hearing all about you and what you're going to share with us. I'm going to introduce you now. Lillian Lartey is a wellness and transformation coach. She helps overworked professional and business women reduce stress, anxiety, and overcome burnout using her pause and breathe method so that they can feel calm and balanced in work and life. She's based in the UK. Lillian has experience in the industry stretching over 20 years. Lillian, good to see you. Tell us, how did you get to where you are to now as a wellness and transformation coach?
Thank you, Dawn. Wow, well, it's been a journey. So I will share the brief story of how I got here. So as you rightly said in the introduction, I've been in the health wellness industry for over 20 years. It still seems like yesterday when I qualified, and I love what I do. So I started in my 20s. I started teaching exercise classes in local gyms, local communities, had a number of personal fitness training clients, and I also qualified as a massage remedial therapist. So I had a number of clinics in and around London. So I loved what I do, and you know, the majority of the clients who came to see me were stressed themselves, and they were looking for ways to reduce the stress, etc. Now, the classes that I was teaching were what we call high impact classes. So think of spin, aqua aerobics, body condition, any high impact classes, I was teaching them because I loved them. And my classes were packed. So the more I taught, the more I was in demand to teach more. Likewise, I was getting good results with my personal training clients, as well as with my massage clients as well. But I found, being self-employed, that I was working 12+ hour days. I was on this hamster wheel, you know, keep going day by day. You wake up in the morning, you're on it, out the door, 7 o'clock, 7 a.m. teaching early morning classes. And, you know, even though I'd come in and out, I'm not finishing my day until 9 p.m., 10 p.m. So though it felt fun for me, after a while, I noticed that my energy level started to decline slowly. And I thought, what's going on here? Now, in our industry, we had heard the whispers of, be careful you don't do too much in case you burn out. And we were kind of like, burnout, that's never going to happen to us. We're strong, we're invincible, we know what we're doing, we're fit. But slowly but surely, as the days and the months and the years were going on, it was like, I'm not really able to teach as well as I used to teach. I'm showing up, I'm feeling tired, I'm not having proper sleep. I think that I'm eating properly, but I'm feeling bloated, all sorts of things. So me and my colleagues would have these conversations and never really coming to any fruitful solutions. So we carried on. And then eventually, when I reached the ripe old age of 40, I realized that I just wasn't having the energy. And in my mind, I thought, it's age. And I thought, no, I'm not that type of person to think like that. So as I was teaching, I noticed my performance was declining. My productivity was it was just abysmal. So I thought, what is happening to me? And I was using unhealthy methods to keep my energy levels high. So eating lots of sugary foods, anything that was quick to give me that sugar and that energy high. And then eventually one day I woke up and I couldn't get out of bed. Literally, I felt like my body weighed 10 tons, and I'm not exaggerating. And I kept asking myself, what is wrong with me? What is wrong with me? I had severe headaches, brain fog. I couldn't even make viable decisions. Even getting from my bedroom to the bathroom was a real huge struggle. And I thought, this is not like me. What is going on? And I didn't know where to turn for answers. So I just carried on the best way I could, but it was a real struggle. Eventually, my group exercise coordinator started to notice a decline in my numbers. And she said, Lillian, you know, this is what's happening. What is going on with you? So I explained to her, I said, listen, I think I'm going to have to stop my classes for a while. I think I just need to rest a bit. Now, rest for me was not one of those things that I included in my day-to-day living. It was go, 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 do, got to keep working, keep the balls spinning in the air, you know, in case they drop. I hardly took a holiday, Dawn, you know. Even if I took a break, it was maybe a few days here and there, but not a good period of rest. So I carried on because I thought, you know, I had this strong woman mentality, got to keep going, got to keep working. And I thought in my mind, no, I can do it. I can do it because I'm fit. I know what I'm doing as a fitness expert. So then eventually, as I noticed that things were not working out the way they should be, I said to myself, okay, this is how I can cope. I'll need to drop 2 of my massage clinics as well, which means a drop in income. Now, how do you cope when you're working for yourself, plus trying to keep a roof over your head, pay the bills, but at the same time, you can't work at capacity? So these were things that I had to juggle. And I was like, okay, if I take 1 or 2 weeks out, I'll be able to recover and get back. But that wasn't the case for me. Eventually, I came across a guy who was doing this course on weight loss. And I thought, you know what, I'll do it. I can teach it online for my clients. But as he had a module on stress. So as he was talking about stress and everything, I thought, yeah, I know all of this. You know, I was kind of like, yeah. And then he was talking about the symptoms. And as he was going through the symptoms, he was catching my attention. I was like, what did he say? And all the symptoms that he was going through were symptoms I was experiencing, until he got to the end and it said burnout in these big letters. And I was like, no, that can't be me. Never, ever, never. No. I denied it till the cows came home, Dawn. I was like, how can that ever happen to me? I'm a fitness trainer. I'm a remedial therapist. I'm an exercise teacher. I know what I'm doing. I eat the right foods. I exercise. I'm fit. How can that happen to me? No, it must be something else. And the more he was talking, the more I just felt this conviction that, Lillian, what have you done to yourself? And this level of shame, judgment, and guilt that came on me, Dawn, it was like, no, I can't. I'm not even looking at that. So I just pushed that to the side. And I thought, okay, let me just get on board with this weight loss program, do it for my clients. At least this will help bring in some income for me. So I started to work with this coach, and then he was talking about the necessity of nutrition. Now, I thought I was eating well, not knowing that I had a sugar addiction, not knowing that I was intolerant to wheat. I was intolerant to so many things, dairy, soya, so many things which I was consuming, which I thought was healthy for my body, but in fact they weren't. So that was contributing towards the stress and the burnout. So as I worked with him, I uncovered a better way of me eating, a better way of me exercising, and also including an element of stress. An element of rest, sorry. However, even though I cut down my physical, the physical method of me working, less clients to teach, less classes to teach, I was focused on one clinic, and a majority of my clients were online. I said, okay, I'm doing this, but I'm still feeling tired. I'm still feeling stressed. What is going on with me? Not knowing that, okay, I've stopped working the 12+ hour days physically, but mentally and emotionally, I was still clocking up the 12 hours in my mind. When I went to bed, I couldn't switch off. When I woke up early hours of the morning, my mind was churning over with problems, with worries, the business, the clients, everything. And then I was like, what am I going to do? In the middle of that, sadly, in 2016, my dad passed away. So I was carrying that weight of grief as well. I hadn't really processed that effectively. And then someone who I was working for as a mentor and as a coach, also things changed in that company. And I thought, no, I need to come away from that. And I really need to focus on what my purpose is. It was in 2018 that I started to get deeper and deeper as to what was really going on with me. However, when I was in the process of doing this, it was in November that I suffered a stress-related health crisis. The only way I can describe it was that my body felt like it imploded. It was literally, I remember just sitting down, my heart was pumping like it was wanting to get out of my chest. Very fast, very hard. I had this pounding headache. It was like, I don't know, just different sensations were going on in front of my eyes. I couldn't think clearly. I couldn't stand. My legs felt very weak. And then in the evening, I was coming out in these hot sweats. And I said to my mum, I said, I don't feel well. Now, when I say that, she knows that there's something really wrong, because I'm the type of person, if I don't feel well, I'm not going to tell anybody. I'm going to power through that. I'm going to push through and I'm going to carry on working. But when I said this to my mum, I said, I think I'm going to go to A&E and check myself in. And she looked at me, she was like, what? She said, what's wrong? So I told her. And so I went to A&E. Dawn, by the time I got to A&E, now, bearing in mind, I thought I was healthy. Normally, when I take my blood pressure was around 125, 128 over AE, something like that. When I got to A&E and they took the first count of my blood pressure, it was 191 over 90 something. Never ever was my blood pressure like that at all. The nurse who took it was like, have you been abroad? What have you been doing? She was asking me all these questions. I said, no, I've never been abroad. No. So she goes, okay, you just sit to the side, we'll let the doctors know that you're here. Anyway, because of all the chest pains that I was suffering with and all the everything that's going on in my body, it was like they just got me in straight away. The doctors were doing all these tests on me. Every test under the sun, Dawn, everything came back. Nope, you're fine. It's positive. It's okay. Everything's fine. So what is going on with you? They took a final blood pressure count. That final blood pressure count was 201 over 107. And the nurse just looked at me. She was just like, you know what, we're going to have to check you in. I was like, no. So they admitted me into hospital, did a whole load of checks over me, a whole load of imbalances. I had no iron in me. My thyroid was hyper. So many things that I would never, ever associate myself with. And then as the consultants were coming around one by one, they just kept asking me the same questions. What have you been doing? What work do you do? And when I said to them, oh, my health fitness coach, they were like, really? And I was just like, oh my goodness. Anyway, in the end, they gave me a whole lot of medication, said, go home and rest. And I thought, rest? What's rest? I can't rest. I work for myself. How am I going to bring the money in? How am I going to keep a roof over my head? What am I going to do? But surely I had to rest on, because when I tried to do a piece of work, my body would just react. The heart palpitations would start coming back, the sweats, the headache, the brain fog, everything. And I was like, oh my goodness, what have I done to myself? So I took 6 months out. I just had to stop my work. Through that, thankfully, I found a local contract that I was able to do a bit of work at home and a bit in the local studio. I was working for a Pilates studio, and it was okay work that I could do and not have to think about it. But during the months that I took off my business, I really did some deep soul searching. What am I here to do? Why has this happened to my body? And what am I going to do moving forwards? So I uncovered that a lot of what I was carrying was stuff from my past. I suffered a lot of racial trauma growing up in this country. And all that was in the back of my head as I was working really hard was, Lillian, you're not accepted because you're Black. Lillian, you can't do this because you're Black. Lillian, you have to go the extra mile because you're Black. Lillian, this, that, you're not good enough. You're not wanted here. We don't want this. We don't want that from you. And all of that was what was driving me. But as I was being driven by these thoughts and these traumatic messages, my body was wearing itself down because it was in a high level of stress. Now, I see this a lot in my clients that come to me. A lot of the clients that come to me they've collapsed. They're at burnout stage. They're overworked. They're overwhelmed. but they're not looking at the root cause of the problem. They're not looking at what is actually driving them to perform and work at the level that they're working at right now.
Lillian, that is such a fantastic story. I was engrossed. I wasn't on camera, and I honestly, that is an amazing story. And I've heard your story before, and thank you so much for sharing that with us. And it's amazing about looking, you talk about identifying the signs of stress and burnout, and you discuss some of them and just then. Just for our listeners, and just so that we can sort of relate your story to what you actually teach and do now, what are the signs of stress and burnout that people should be looking out for?
Well, definitely tension in the body. That's the number one really, obvious sign. And sadly, most people think that, oh, because I'm tense in my body, it's okay. No, that's your body speaking to you and saying, you're getting a bit stressed here, just take a step back. So that's one of the signs. Another sign is brain fog. That, when I say brain fog, I mean you find it really hard to make decisions. You're probably feeling tired mentally, or you're feeling down, maybe a bit depressed, maybe a bit anxious in the mind, because you can also feel anxious in the body, but it's a lot in the head. It can also feel like a head cold. So that's brain fog. You can also have signs of sleeplessness. Now, you might be able to go to sleep quite easily, but you wake up, especially during the hours between 2 and 4 o'clock, because that's when your brain is doing its cognitive repair. And that is when your brain gets alert. And if you've got a lot of worry and stress, your brain will wake you up during those hours in particular. Now, maybe you wake up feeling groggy, unrefreshed. That's also a sign of stress and burnout. You're feeling low in energy. You just, no matter what you do, no matter what you take, your energy levels just do not go straight back up there. And as a woman, you might also find that you miss and skip periods. That's also signs of high stress and burnout. And if you're past that, and then you're into perimenopause and menopausal, you may find that those symptoms exacerbate. They get worse. So these are just a few of the signs. Another signs are, like I've mentioned with myself, racing heart rate, sweats, heart palpitations. You might find it difficult to digest foods that you once were able to eat, but now you find that you're intolerant to, stomach pains, muscle twitches, muscle pains. The list is long. So that's just some of the signs.
The list is long. And thank you for so much for sharing that. Now, you talked about, and this is something I'm really, really interested in. And so, you talk about identifying the root cause of stress and burnout. And in your story, you talk about when you took your time off, that you realized that some of the root causes of your stress and trauma were due to racial trauma, things that happened to you as a child, things that had happened to you as an adult, things that you felt that you had to prove yourself. Now, I do talk about racism makes you ill. And when I say that, and then I talk about the evidence around how Black people suffer more with stroke, and you talked about your high blood pressure because if you hadn't have stopped, goodness knows what would have happened. And I talk about, we're more likely to have diabetes, we're more likely to have, cardiovascular diseases, sort of like have kidney problems, renal problems. And, me and you come from the same community. We all know somebody that's been an issue for. So, you talk about identifying the root causes of burnout. For people of colour, there may be a sort of like a culmination of stress that has gone on from childhood, from school experiences to work experiences, perceptions in society. And I really love the way that you talked about that. But so people definitely, I do resonate with what you're saying. But what are some of the other root causes around stress?
So again, some of the root causes could be your going back to the upbringing, being told, you've got to perform, or again, we hear about being the strong Black woman, or the strong woman, and for some people, they didn't realize what that entailed, but because they saw others in their community or their family as strong women taking on so many roles or doing so many things, that we felt as women, we felt compelled to copy and emulate that, but not knowing that that was not suited to us. So that could be one of the root cause. One of the other root cause is not knowing your body, not understanding your body's makeup. Now, there's a situation, or there's I don't even know what to call it, but there's a thing called high sensitivity. And there are some of us that are born with high sensitive nervous systems. And that simply means that our nervous systems are more sensitive to what goes on around us in the environment as opposed to the average person. So we're more susceptible to levels of stress. So it doesn't mean that you're weak, but it just means that your nervous system is highly sensitive. So that can be a root cause to stress and burnout. If you don't realize that you're in a highly sensitive body, then you don't know how to take care of it. You will do what someone else is doing and think, well, why can I not keep up? And that was the case for me. I've got a high sensitive body. So now I know how to treat my body with a lot more care and a lot more attention. That, for example, I was really working hard in the gym. I would train in ways that would compete against men, for example, but not knowing that that's not suited for my body. So I come across women who also, they push themselves and they work really hard, thinking that they've got to perform just as well as their counterparts, as their colleagues, but their bodies are not suited to that. So that is one root cause. Another root cause is also misalignment of your purpose. At times we are out of alignment with our purpose, and therefore we're rushing, we're doing things. Say, for example, you were a nurse, Dawn. If I said, right, I'm going to be a nurse because all the females in my family were nurses, so I'm going to carry that on through to the generation. But not knowing, I don't like the sight of blood, or, I can't do the long hours and I can't stand up on my feet for ages. But I'm like, no, I'm going to do it. I don't care what my body is saying to me, because my aunt was a nurse, my mum was a nurse, my grandma was a nurse. I'm going to be a nurse. But that's not my purpose. My purpose is something completely different. So that can also contribute towards stress and burnout.
I love that. I love that. That is so true. Everything you said is so true. And, I talk about, you need to know what your normal is, so that you know what's not normal, so you know when you're not aligned. And when you were talking, I was thinking about, when you get a nervous stomach and you don't know you've got something to do, but you feel really nervous about, you talked earlier about feeling groggy in the morning, and and I think, so what I'm hearing from you is that you should know what your normal is, so that you know what's not normal, so that you can see those signs, and that that stress is almost inevitable. There's some element, especially around racial trauma, that we can't control. There's a limit to what we can do and what we can't do. But what we can do is we can think, how am I feeling? Why has this situation triggered me? Do you know what I mean? What can I do to center myself and, deal with the situation? I had a situation yesterday where I felt quite victimized in the situation. And what I did was I spoke to other coaches and trainers that I've met, and talked about the situation. It was so brilliant to sort of hear that it wasn't me that was feeling that way, that it was reasonable to feel that way. And then it allowed me to, what can I control in that situation? And the only thing I can control is myself and my reactions. And and be aware that sort of behavior, because you can't control other people's behavior even though you want to, that sort of behavior is a trigger for you. And so you sort of so you learn, say if you wake up feeling groggy, or sometimes I don't drink enough, I'm like a nightmare drinking, and so I know that I have to drink. So I prepare, I've got three mugs of tea here, maybe tea's not the best thing, but I've got 3 drinks here, so that and they're sitting in front of me, so I have to drink them. And I know that if I drink at least those 3 drinks, that I've had nearly enough to do. But I know I need to do a bit more. But it's sort of knowing what has an impact on your body, and you know, what can you do both mentally and physically? Would you agree, Lillian?
Totally, totally. Listening to your body, understanding your body, how it's working for you, and also being able to take care of your body so that it's fit enough and well enough to support your purpose, to support you fulfilling your work, not even just your work, but also your role as a daughter, as a wife, etc., in everyday life.
Yeah, and I really like what you say about your purpose, because the situation I had yesterday, I was thinking, do I want to do this sort of work with these kind of people? You know, is it worth feeling like I'm feeling, and like literally having those conversations with yourself, and you know, what is in your power? Because I can stop, you know, I can choose to do something else, I can choose to work with a different kind of people, and then to start thinking about, what are your values, what are you trying to do, you know, in your career, what is your mission, what is your vision, you know, to go forward and be really, really clear with that. I love that. So I know that you teach around the things you can do to eliminate all of this of feeling stressed and burnt out and overworked, you know. So, you know, what are, you talk about the 5 things that you can do to eliminate that. So what are they, Lillian?
So firstly, I always suggest to people is to stop and step back. As soon as you identify the signs, you know you've been experiencing some of the signs, and what I shared is just a minute of the signs that you're experiencing, but you know within yourself that you're stressed and you're burnt out. The first thing to do, I would recommend, and I use my acronym called SPACE. So the S is for stop and step back. I remember one time I was working with someone in a studio and they were highly stressed. And this statement just came out of me because the person was trying, there was so much going on in their business. People were leaving, you know, clients were complaining, people were not paying, all sorts of things. And it was like I could literally see this person spinning the plates, you know, and afraid to stop, take a break, and just look at the bigger picture of what's going on. So I said to the person, and this just came out of me, you cannot change a faulty tire on a vehicle that's speeding down the road at 100 miles per hour.
I love that. That's amazing.
That's say it again.
Really good analogy.
I'll say it again. You cannot change a faulty tire on a vehicle that's speeding down the road at 100 miles per hour. Now, when I said this to that person, they were like, what? What do you mean? Basically, this person was trying to fix all that was going on in their business whilst they're stressed, trying to get a different outcome, a positive outcome, but they were wearing themselves down in the process. So the first thing to do is to stop and step back and ask yourself some poignant, really poignant questions. Look at yourself in the mirror and say, okay, what is really going on with me? Am I on my purpose? Am I doing what I'm called to do? Am I taking good care of myself as I go along this journey? Really be honest with yourself and step back and look at the bigger picture and the vision of what it is that you're trying to achieve. Because as I mentioned often, we're trying to do something, or we're trying to get somewhere which is not in alignment with ourselves. So that's the first thing. So the second point is P of the space is P, protect your mental health and energy. Now, people think when it comes to taking care of their health and feeling energized, it's all about the body. It's not. It's also about what's going on here, what's going on into your mind. Because people go about talking about, well, I'm doing self-care. I'm going to have a self-care day. It's self-care Sunday. And sometimes when I see that, I just want to go, oh, no, it's not. That's not what self-care is about. Self-care comes from within. You cannot do self-care with a busy mind. And when I was treating many clients who were coming to me for massage, I could tell when their minds were busy, because when they lay down on the couch and I was massaging them, they were tense. And I would say to them, relax. And they were like, I'm trying. And then eventually they'll tell me what's going on in their mind. So you need to be looking at what's going on in your mental capacity. What is actually going on in your mind? Maybe you need to do a mental detox, which is great. You know, have a look at what is draining your energy. What are the energy vampires? What is sucking you dry? And I don't just mean, you know, physically and environmentally, but also emotionally. What are the emotional aspects of your life that you're not dealing with? I gave an example. During my journey, my dad passed away. I didn't deal with the grief, and the grief started to wear away in my body. It sucked my energy without me realizing. So taking care of your mental health and your energy as well. And then the A of space stands for always scheduling time for your well-being. Put your well-being first. Now, every time when I speak with my clients and I say to them, well, what are you doing for your well-being? What are you doing for rest? What are you doing in terms of your nutrition? And it's like, well, yeah, Lillian, I'm trying to fit it in. And I'm like, no, unless you prepare the foundation first, you're not going to be able to build anything structurally on top of that. So your well-being comes first. So your well-being comes at the top of your to-do list. We've all heard of the airplane analogy. You know, in the case of the airplane going down, and the oxygen mask drop down, whose oxygen mask do you put on first? You don't put the other person's on first, you put yours on first. Once you've got your oxygen mask on securely, then you're equipped to help other people. Otherwise, you put yourself in danger. This is something I learned when I was learning first aid, when the first aider said to us, when you go into a situation with casualties, make sure that you first are safe, otherwise you then become a casualty. And there are many women who are working hard to serve others. They're giving, and they're becoming a casualty. They're not looking after themselves. They're not administrating their own medicine for themselves. They're not taking time out. And I mean adequate time out. I'm not talking about self-care Sunday, self-care Saturday. That's rubbish. You need to be able to plan in your schedule your well-being first. So that's the A. And then C is communicate. Ask for help. Now, again, many women, if you've been brought up with that notion of you've got to be strong, you've got to be the strong woman, you've got to be a strong person, chances are you're not going to ask for help. Chances are you've been told you can do it all yourself. You can have it all. Do it by yourself. You're the strong person. Therefore, asking for help may seem like a weakness. It might seem like a cop-out, but in fact, asking for help is strength. No man is an island. We don't know and we don't hold the cards to every skill under the sun. There are others around us who are equipped to do work much better than us. So ask for help, communicate when you're feeling run down, when the signs of burnout and stress are creeping up on you. Communicate with your team, communicate with your family and say, hey, you know, I just need to take some time out, and then use that time out to rest. And then lastly, the fifth point is the E in space, which is evaluate any gaps or loopholes where you're experiencing cycles of overworking. Something which I come across, and often people, you know, they inbox me, they send me emails and say, Lillian, you know, I thought I was on top of my schedule. I thought I was on top of things, but I burnt out last week. I spent the weekend in bed. Lillian, I'm in hospital. Lillian, this is what's going on with me. What can I do? If you're not dealing with the root cause of your stress and the burnout, chances are you're going to cycle. There are going to be cycles. There are going to be cycles of overworking. There are going to be cycles of proving. There are going to be cycles of not feeling good enough, cycles of feeling insignificant, cycles of I've just got to do, I've got to meet this deadline, I've got to meet this goal. Otherwise, this means this. So look at those loopholes. Look at where you've got the repetitive cycles going on, and look to break those cycles. And one way of breaking those cycles is dealing with the root of what is actually driving you to overwork, to be overwhelmed, to be stressed, and to be burnt out.
That's amazing. That is amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I love the really structured way that you said that, really going back over your story and the lessons that you've learned from your story and how you can apply that to help others, to help themselves. I really like that, Lillian, and it's been absolutely wonderful talking to you. Is there a book or anything that that supports you, that have you got a favourite book that you want to talk about that sort of like helps you on your journey?
Yeah, my favourite book is a book by a guy called Dr. Don Colbert. He's an American doctor and he's written several books on stress. But the number one book is my favorite and I always refer to is called Deadly Emotions. And he talks about how our emotions create illness in our bodies, with the, going through the stress as well. And it's when I read that book, when I tell you, I did not put that book down. It has served as a catalyst in my journey of recovery. It's always one of those books I refer to when I'm speaking with my clients and working with my clients. I recommend everyone to get a hold of this book because we don't realize the causes of disease and ailments in our body. We always think, oh, it's some external virus or something I've picked up on, or it's a disease that I've inherited, especially in the Black culture with high blood pressure, heart disease, diabetes. It's not always inherited. Sometimes it's our emotions, the emotions that we're carrying, and stress is an emotion. It's one of the strongest and highest emotions that can create disease. And Dr. Don Colbert narrates perfectly what the cause is, how we can deal with our emotions and be more in a high emotional state, and what we can do to deal with the disease in the process. And in some cases, actually reverse those diseases as well.
Brilliant, brilliant. That's wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. And do you have, it's been so fabulous to sort of hear about your work and how you share that. And I know you teach and you use various techniques. Do you have something that we can share with the audience around how you do that?
Yeah, at the moment, my main method that I use is called my pause and breathe method. This is my t-shirt, pause and breathe.
Listening, Lillian has got a beautiful green t-shirt on with pause and breathe on it, which looks absolutely marvelous.
And basically it came about because I realized again, how can I help my clients, and not just my clients, but women who I've been seeing working really hard? How can I help them to take moments out during their day to literally stop and take a break and take a breather? And it came about through my meditation, pause and breathe. So every week on a Wednesday on Zoom, I gather with some women. We gather for 20 minutes and literally we pause from the busyness of the day. We pause from our work and we literally stop and breathe to de-stress, release any anxiety, any worries of the day, and reset ourselves. And the testimonials, Dawn, have been phenomenal. People can check it out on my social media. People saying, Lillian, I never used to give myself time out because, again, I thought it was something weak. I thought I was okay. People are saying, well, I feel more productive when I go back to work. I realize I don't have to work as hard, but I feel more calmer and more relaxed in my body. And I do that at 12 noon. And then I do another session at 8 p.m. because I also realized that another thing that was coming up from people that I spoke to and my female clients was that, Lillian, I go to bed, but my mind is still churning over. I can't switch off. What can I do? And I thought, you're not de-stressing and you're not doing what we call your stress hygiene at the end of the day. So I do what we call a wind down session at 8 p.m. UK time on Zoom, where again, we gather, we breathe, we go through some breath work techniques, we do some stretching, we do different well-being techniques to help bring us in that place of balance and harmony, to help us stay relaxed and be at peace with ourselves as well.
That's fantastic. And we will share the links to Lillian's pause and breathe experience sessions in the show notes. And it's something that I would definitely will be doing. Lillian, it's been so good to talk to you again. We've talked before and, it's really great that you're part of my network now. I know we'll be talking again. How can people get in touch with you to hear more about your work? You talked about social media. How can people connect with you and hear more about what you're doing?
Thanks, Dawn. Yes, people can connect with me on Facebook. I've got a Facebook page, Lillian Lartey Wellness Original, and on LinkedIn and Instagram under Lillian Lartey. I also have a YouTube channel. If you just Google Lillian Lartey, it will come up there. And I'm also on Clubhouse, and I have a Linktree site. If you go to Linktree/Lillian Lartey, you will find me there as well. And you can find out everything that I do with regards to the pause and breathe experience method.
That's fantastic. And we'll put all those links in the show notes. Lillian, it's been absolutely fantastic to talk to you. It's been, I've learned so much about you and how you go about your work. I really love the way that you make your work part of your experience in your embody. And usually I ask people, you know, how do you stay focused, positive, and productive? You know, how do you incorporate health and well-being into your life? But you did. I didn't have to ask you that because you told us. You told us that, so that is absolutely fantastic. Is there anything you'd like to leave the audience with, you know, one nugget of wisdom before we go?
Please, 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 you know, listen again to what I've shared. You know, stress and burnout is a serious thing amongst women, especially, and in our community. Please don't take it lightly. Please don't think, oh, I'm just a bit stressed. Notice the signs. Do something about it, because you can. Ask for help, reach out for help, and don't try to, you know, work and push through alone. If you're burnt out, definitely seek help in your recovery so that you can, you know, be able to be stronger and fitter and healthier to fulfill your purpose here on earth. And just take care of others as well. That's what I have to say. Don't do it alone, and come on the pause and breathe sessions, because it will really, really help you as well. Thank you, Dawn.
You're very welcome. So what I would like to say to everyone is just pause and breathe with Lillian, and you know, everything's going to be all right. So that's my lesson from this. So that's it for the Dawn Jarvis show today. It's been a fantastic show. I'd like to thank my guest Lillian Lartey, and I will see you soon. Take care.
Thank you for listening to The Dawn Jarvis Show. If you enjoyed this episode, there are 2 things you can do. Number 1, leave Dawn a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts. It would mean so much to her if you took a moment out of your time to post your thoughts on the show. It will help Dawn reach so many more people and help them with their well-being. Number 2, subscribe to Dawn's email list, the Diverse Nurse Digest, using the link in the show notes. Until the next time, thank you and goodbye.